Welcome to another video. This is another Road to 1000 video, and we're playing Paleo Frogs. This is episode number 2. So I'm going to change the format a little bit. So rather than playing 5 games, we're going to go ahead and play 3 games. And if you haven't noticed already, I actually did get a new microphone. So hopefully this will improve the quality of my videos at least a little bit more. And yeah, so anyways, I won't be revealing the deck profile in this video, but I'll be doing another one of these that should come out on Saturday. And then after that, that's the day that I will be going to the regionals. That's why I'm not revealing my deck profile. But after the regionals, I should do a deck profile that'll probably come out on that Sunday or the Monday. Right after the regionals. Anyways, so starting with our game number 1, we are playing against Dark Magician. And so let's start off this game. It looks like, I believe he goes first. Oh no, I do go first actually. So I set a Dupe Frog and the rest of my back row and pass my turn over to him. He starts off with a Dark Magical Circle. And he picks up Apprentice Illusion Magician, Magician Soul, and Eternal Soul. He puts back this, I think he keeps the Eternal Soul here, so he reveals it to me. He goes ahead and uses Apprentice Illusion Magician, and he actually forgot about the Magician Navigations effect that you can banish from the grave to target a spell or trap your opponent controls and negate its effects for the entirety of this duel. So I don't know if he just didn't know it existed or if he didn't know it was a quick effect, but it actually is. You can actually banish it as a quick effect to negate one of my back row. So I actually go here and I activate Paleo Canadia, and it flips it face down. And he could have negated that as well. And then he goes ahead and sets Eternal Soul and passes his turn. And I flip summon the Dupe Frog, normal summon the Rodent Toad, and he chains, or not chains, but he activates Eternal Soul in response to my summon. And he special summons a Dark Magician from his hand. Then he goes ahead and uses Dark Magician's Circle to banish my Rodent Toad. So my thought process here is that I could compulse my Rodent Toad and chain my Canadia, which sets me up for a play anyways. I actually could have changed my Canadia to the Eternal Soul, but it really didn't matter here. I think this is probably the safer play because it did actually work in my favor. Because I can actually go here and use Compulse to target my own Rodent Toad and bounce it back to the hand and special Canadia. I guess it might have been better if he just shotgunned the Eternal Soul and I chained the Canadia, because then he would be forced to banish like the Canadia or something, but I think this play worked out in my favor, so yeah. Anyways, I overlay for a copy of Opabina instead of a Toad in this case, because if I go for Toad, he can just attack with Dark Magician. Also, he could just link it off with the Illusion Magician and then summon back it with Eternal Soul and bait my Toad anyways. So I feel like it wasn't very smart for me to do that. He goes ahead and activates Ash, and this is a bad play because Opabina is unaffected. So the play goes through, and Olenoides is added to my hand. I can activate traps from my hand due to its effects, so I can Olenoides and target the Eternal Soul. I could have detached the Canadia here, but I opted to detach the Dupe Frog instead so that I could actually get a search of the Opabina on my next turn. It goes ahead and allows it to get popped, which destroys all of his monsters on the field, and it destroys the Apprentice Illusion Magician as well. It's not just face-up monsters, it is actually all monsters you control, as the text reads right here. He goes for turn to top decks Magician Soul because he obviously put it on the top, like the second card due to Circle. I guess it was the first card due to Circle because he added the Eternal Soul. Anyways, so he pitches the Dark Magician and specials the Magician's Soul. And then he goes ahead and uses the effect to summon the Dark Magician from the graveyard, this effect right here. And then the Circle's effect is activated here, and he goes ahead and banishes my Impermanence, which is fine. That's okay with me. I couldn't Impermanence the Magician's Soul, by the way, because this does activate in the hand. It says, where is it at? If this card is in your hand, you can send it and then activate one of these effects. So it's all one chain. This activates in the hand, so I can't respond to this. Anyways, he declares an attack. I chain Crackdown, giving me control of his Dark Magician as well as giving me Olenoides. He activates Soul Servant and sending Eternal Soul to the top of his deck, and he's going to banish for it because he does have a Dark Magician in the graveyard. And then on my turn, I go ahead and draw. He activates Eternal Soul in the standby phase to bring back a Dark Magician, and then uses the Dark Magical Circle to destroy Opabina. I don't know if this was the correct play here. I think you could have just taken the damage and then in end phase then use the Dark Magician to like banish Crackdown or something. I don't know. I don't know exactly what the correct line of play here would have been, but I think that would have been something that I would have done at least. Anyways, I go ahead and normal summon Ronin Totem, link off with Dark Magician into a copy of IP Masquerena. Then I banish for Ronin's effect, banish the Dupe Frog in my graveyard. That's why I didn't make a Toad, is because I did have the Dupe Frog in my graveyard, so I knew that I could bring back my Ronin Totem and overlay it with my Olenoides. Anyways, so he does actually attempt to activate Eternal Soul again, but it is once per turn, so I catch it and I tell him, hey, that's once per turn. He lets it go through, so Ronin Totem gets special summoned. I overlay it into a copy of Toad, set my back row, and I pass my turn because I can't attack over Dark Magician because he's big. Anyways, Toad's effect activates in standby phase, and he chains Eternal Soul here. And so I actually opt to summon a Swap Frog instead of a Dupe Frog, just in case if he happens to banish my Dupe Frog instead. And I set a Ronin Toad into the graveyard, and he goes ahead and banishes my back row, not my Toad. Very interesting. But I think this is actually the correct play here because he's going to now... But like it would be the correct play, obviously, if this wasn't Canadia, like if it was another Impermanence, but or a Battle Trap even. But I do Canadia, flip the Dark Magician face down. Then he attempts to go into battle phase, and in main phase, I catch him, and I say, hey, I'm going to use Masquerena effect. And then I Masquerena link off everything into a Boral Sword. Now, I actually, and then I use Toad's effect to add back the Swap Frog. Now, actually, I should have used Sword's effect to switch this to defense, but I just wasn't thinking. These were all recorded like really late at night, so I was just kind of like on autopilot mode. But I should have done that, and I didn't, and so my Canadia gets destroyed in battle. Anyways, he goes for Dark Magical Circle, and I believe he picks up the Soul Servant, which I don't think is the right pick here. I think you actually should pick up Magician's Rod, and I think that the Extravagance should go the next card on the top of the deck, so you're top decking into Extravagance, drawing 2 cards. You're drawing back into the Magician's Rod, or in this case, drawing into Soul Servant, which I think might even be better. I think the best play here, I think that was the best play, but I'm not like exactly too sure, you know. He tries to link off with a face down Dark Magician, but you can't do that. I catch him here. I say you can't do that. And he scoops up and he leaves the game, actually, instead of going into game 2. I don't know why he didn't allow us to go into game number 2. I think this was a pretty like solid game, and I think we would have had a good game 2. A draw for turn. It's a judgment. I think from here I could just make a Toad like off of the Ronin Totems, and like from there like I could just Brawl Sword OTK him, so it was pretty solid. Although he did have a like if he played a Link Spider, I don't know if he does. If he doesn't, he should, because you can link off this Dark Magician, and then you can use Eternal Soul to summon back the Dark Magician to banish my Boral Sword or to banish Swap Frog. Anyways, that's it for match number 1. We win. It's just a 1-0 win, but I mean technically it's a 2-0 win because he scooped up all together. Our next match, we are playing against Dark Hero or Destiny Heroes, I guess. So I do opt to go first, and I special summon Swap Frog. Actually, I believe what happened here. Sorry, he went first. Sorry, no, that's fine. I'll just explain it. Pretty much, he went first, and he opened his hand, and there was nothing good in his hand, so he passed it to me. I discarded for Swap Frog, and he scooped. So at this point, I'm thinking, hey, we're siding. I'm siding against a combo deck, because if I was siding against a control deck, they would have like obviously set back row, unless if they just drew all hand traps that did nothing against me. But in that case, you'd hand trap the Swap Frog. So pretty much, I understand here that I'm playing against a combo deck. So I could side in like Nibiru's, I can side in Phantasmes, I can side in stuff like that. So he starts off with Fusion Destiny. We let that go through. He's going to send Mali and 2 copies of Diamond Dude to summon Destiny Hero Dominance, which is pretty cool. This card's kind of cool. He takes the top 5 cards of his deck, and he takes a look at him. I don't think it like really matters. I believe he puts Miracle Fusion Defusion on the top so he can draw them with Allure. I believe, if I'm right. So he goes ahead and does that, banishes Diamond Dude, and then he uses Stratos effect to search, which I hit with an Impermanence. Then he goes ahead and summons back Double Diamond Dude and Malicious, links off the Stratos and Mali into a copy of Crusader. Then use its effect to go ahead and summon the Mali back, tribute it off and search for another copy of Stratos, banishes Mali for another Mali, and then he uses Diamond Dude's effect twice because he has 2 copies, and he excavates Avarice and Destiny Draw. So the next turn he's going to get 2 free draws, although with Avarice you actually do have to target all 5 monsters in the graveyard, since this is costs are never to target. Costs are that's like the activation requirement. So in order to resolve this with the Diamond Dude effect, you actually do have to target the 5 monsters in the graveyard. Unlike with Destiny Draw and the Diamond Dude combo, you actually don't need to discard a Destiny Hero because cost is to discard. So that's something really important to note, actually. So he does to get a free 2 draws off a Destiny Draw, as well as he could use the Avarice to shuffle back 5 to draw 2. But for Destiny Draw, he does actually not have to discard a Destiny monster. I normal summon Swap Frog. Oh, I think I hit the wrong button there. But anyways, it's just normal Swap Frog plays here because I had a Swap Frog on a water. So, you make the Ronin Totem, send a Frog to grave, banish it, and then use the Ronin and the Swap Frog to overlay into a Toad. Then Totally Awesome attacks over Diamond Dude. He's actually going to take 800 damage here, which is actually the correct amount. I don't think it is at the moment because I thought that Dread Decimator adds attack for all of the heroes in the grave. So to all the monsters that he controls. So there was 3, 1, 2, 3. And so the Diamond Dude was actually in this zone right here. So it was not pointing to Dread Decimator. So Dread Decimator's effect is not applied to it. So his life point should actually be at 7,200, not 7,500. Anyways, Toad's effect activates in standby phase. We're going to special summon Dupe Frog from our deck. And then he's going to go ahead and activate the second Mali effect in his graveyard to special summon another one. So there's a lot of plays I could do here. I didn't think that he'd have a Stratos in hand right now. Oh, he uses Diamond Dude's effect, sending Infusion Destiny. Anyways, he uses Destiny Draw's effect to draw 2 cards. He draws into, I believe, Twin Twisters and Destiny Draw, but I wasn't too sure about that. He shuffled his hand. Anyways, he normal summons Stratos and opts to use the pop back row effect, so he can pop 3 back row. And this is the point where he forces out my back row. I'm forced to either Toad negate this or force my back row. So I was thinking here I could just activate Compulse, bounce the Mali to hand, and then he's kind of stuck with an awkward monster in his hand, as well as I could crack down the Dread Decimator. That way he doesn't have any link arrows, so he can't summon from his extra deck. So I crack down target this, and I Compulse target this. Chain resolves backwards. The Mali goes to his hand. The Dread Decimator goes to my field, and then Stratos pops all my back row, meaning the Dread Decimator actually does go to his side of the field, since it goes to mine, and then back to him. So now he's kind of stuck in an awkward spot, at least I thought at the moment, because now it's not boosting any of his monsters outside of himself, and he can only summon to the extra monster zone. So he's kind of I kind of hope it would choke point him a little bit, but I think he can still play through it. Because he actually, it actually helped him unbreak his hand because he activates Destiny Draw, discarding Malicious, and draws 2 more cards. He draws into a Mind Control, targeting the Toad. I'm going to Toad negate that because that's not cool. And Toad adds the Swap Frog back to hand. I misclick here. And then at this point, he's just going to get enough damage on board with Sunriser, and he's going to Monster Born Toad back. This is the point where I wasn't sure if it was exactly enough damage or not. I could have played it out if it wasn't enough damage, because I could have searched for another Swap Frog. But it actually was enough damage, so I went ahead and scooped. Game number 3, we're going first, so we top deck into, or not top deck, we drew Swap Frog and Dupe Frog, so we're going to do the normal Swap Frog plays. Special swap, discarding dupes, send Ronin Totem, and then Swap Frog's effect, return to hand, normal summon it, and then send another Ronin Totem to the grave. Banish Dupe Frog for Ronin Totem's effect, and overlay them both into a Totally Awesome. Setting 3 back row, we drew into our Mistake, which we sided into. And I think this is a really good card to side into. We go ahead and standby phase. We use the Toad's effect to summon Dupe Frog from our deck. And he activates Reinforcement in the Army, which we chain Mistake to. So we're just getting a free +1 off of that. for no reason. And then he normal summons Vion, which we're going to go ahead and use Toad's effect, tributing Dupe Frog, and then we're going to set it to our field. He activates Fusion Destiny here. His hand's pretty loaded, if I'm being honest, like drawing Monster Reborn and like all of these like power cards, pretty much just a handful of spell cards. He sends 3 and then summons the Dominance to his field. He's gonna, on summon, I use Canadia's effect to flip it face down. So now he's can't summon from the extra deck, but he actually draws a Nepali, so he can still fuse with it. Uses Mali's effect to summon Mali once again. He uses Upstart Goblin, we gain 1,000 life points, and he draws into Stratos. Not another like amazing card to draw into, of course. He uses Poly, fusing the Stratos as well as the Dominance into Sunrise. And he can't search because he's under mistake. Then he activates Monster Reborn, targets the Stratos, I believe, in the graveyard. And because I asked him for the target, and he says Stratos, so obviously he's probably going to go here to try and pop monsters or search back row. I'm not exactly too sure. Well, actually, he obviously can't search with Stratos because of mistake, so I don't know what I'm saying there. Anyways, Trap Trick. So I send or banish a Compulse to set a Compulse. This case, if I didn't chain the Trap Trick here, he would just pop the Trap Trick, and or if I chained the Trap Trick, then he would just pop the Compulse, obviously, and it would resolve without, like, I couldn't activate the Compulse in a chain. But now, because I have the Compulse set, the chain links are going to form. He's going to do chain link 1 Stratos, and I'm going to do chain link 1 Compulse, targeting, I believe I target the Mali here since he has no other cards in his hand, which is fine. And then he goes into, I also chained Canadia, which I didn't need to do. It's just, like, it would have protected life points pretty much. He attacks with, I don't remember, I believe he attacks Stratos into Canadia, and then he pops the Toad. And then I get Toad's effect to add Swap Frog from the grave to hand, and this gets popped. Then he links off into Dread Decimator, summons back the copy of Dominance, and then uses the effect to go ahead and look at my deck, and he goes ahead and puts Inspector Border on the top of my deck. So I draw into Inspector Border, and this is probably the worst card to draw into, so it was good on him to, side that in, or sorry, to put that on the top, so I draw into it. But it's okay because I have plays with Swap Frog all by himself, which actually is like insane that like Swap Frog is that good of a card that like I can look at this board and be like, yeah, this is fine. Little Swap Frog's gonna take it down, because he's gonna go ahead and send a Swap Frog from the deck to the grave, banish for a Ronin, and we're gonna overlay for a Toad. And then we're going to attack over the Dread Decimator, Cross Crusader, my bad. Go into the end phase, and we're going to pass it back to him. And then in standby phase, we're going to use Toad's effect to special summon a Dupe Frog from the deck. And then he goes ahead and activates Dominance's effect. We Toad negate that, and he chains Mass Change going into Anki. And then I'm going to use Toad's effect to add back the Swap Frog to hand. And then he's going to go ahead and use Anki to attack into Dupe Frog, and then he's going to search for Mass Change. I think it would have been the better play for him to actually go for Darklaw here, but I ended up searching for a Swap Frog off the Dupe Frog's effect. I don't remember if Darklaw is from their deck to the hand. Okay, so it would have just banished the Dupe Frog, and I think that would have just been better for him. But it didn't matter. I don't think it really mattered in the long run because I top deck the Dynamistress anyways. So I banish the double Dupe Frog for double Ronin, and we overlay into a Toad. Then we set a Dynamistress. He top decks into Twin Twister. I think it would have been a great play for him to just Twin Twister the back row here, like just blind it. But maybe not. I don't know, because I would have just like Toad negated it or just chained the Dino anyways. So we go ahead and activate our Dynamistress, targeting the Darklaw. And we're going to discard the Inspector Border, and he scoops there. And I don't think it was right for him to scoop there, although like his hand really does suck. And like I don't have like a lot of plays because I'm out of frogs at this point, right? Because all my frogs are in my hand or attached to Toad, so like there's not a whole lot I can do here. I could just go for like an IP Masquerade like I'm showing you here, and then I could like summon back both Ronins and then make another Toad, But like that's not that great of a play, honestly. And I have a Canada as well. I don't think that would have been the right play at the moment. I think it would have just been better to grind with the Toad in my extra monster zone. Maybe normal summon the like swap frogs. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know exactly, but that is it for the the second match. And the third game, we are playing against Altergeist. Now, this is probably one of the better matches, so we're going to go ahead and start this up. He starts off with a copy of Pot of Extravagance, banishing 6 cards. I got nothing. Also, this hand is really weird. At first glance, this hand's really bad. Against Altergeist, because like Phantasme, they don't summon from their extra deck. Ronin's a brick, and then I drew 3 Judgment instead of drawing anything else in my engine, so that really sucks. But it actually ends up working here because he normal summons the Meloseek and links off into Link Karibo. So that means we can trigger our Phantasme's effect. So Phantasme summons, we draw 2, and we're going to put back the Ronin Toad in here, and he's going to search for Conquery. I don't know if this is the right play here. I mean, I don't play much of Altergeist myself, so I'm not exactly too familiar with the deck. But anyways, he sets 2 back row, passes it to me, and we just go straight into the battle phase, and we go ahead and attack over Link Karibo. And this prompts him to, on the start of the battle phase, activate Manifestation targeting Meloseek. I say that's okay, summons it, and I'm still going to attack the Link Karibo. He's going to activate Conquery, and he's going to Conquery target my Phantasme. The reason he does this is because he has a protocol set, so if I chain Phantasme, he's going to Meloseek it. So I Phantasme effect, discarding an Olenoides, and he activates protocol, and I chain the Olenoides here. So the Phantasme gets destroyed, the Olenoides get summoned back, and the Meloseek goes to the grave. And then Meloseek's effect will summon, search for Multi-Faker. And then I'm going to attack over Link Karibo here. And so this is a really interesting ruling, I believe, because this is actually, all the payloads are unaffected. So you can tribute the Link Karibo, I believe. I'm not exactly 100% on this ruling, but I believe that it works this way. How you can tribute your Link Karibo to target, or not target, because it doesn't target, to try to change the Olenoides to 0, but it's unaffected, so it just doesn't do anything. I believe that's how it works. I believe you can activate the Link Karibo. It's not like a Raigeki ruling where if your opponent controls no monsters, you can activate Raigeki, something like that. It doesn't like, it affects the board state. It's trying to affect it, which I think is the right thing. Anyways, I go into main phase 2 and I normal summon the Dupe Frog and overlay the Olenoides with it into a copy of Toad. So I think that was like an amazing play here since I didn't like commit my normal summon, so I was able to make Toad due to Phantasme. So I think that was really cool. We go into the standby phase here, and I go ahead and use Toad. He chains Ash to stop it. That's okay with me. I still get the Toad negate, I just don't get the summon of Dupe Frog. He banishes 6 more cards for Extravagance. I pay Judgment because that's a lot of cards, and I don't want him to have that many. At this point, he normal summons Silquidus, and I actually go ahead here and activate Judgment. I could have just waited for the Toad, but I think it's more valuable to keep the Toad on the field, because if I get to summon a swap frog from my deck, I can just combo off on the next turn. So that was my thought. Usually you don't want to use your Toad effect. You don't want to like waste it. You want to just keep it like live, like able to be used, but you don't want to really like remove your Toad from the field at least. So he passes it to me. Standby phase, I use Toad's effect, and I believe I summon a swap frog here. He chains protocol, tributing the Conquery, and I Olenoides, chain the Olenoides and summon it from the deck, and I get to summon a swap frog. So that was a really good play because Olenoides, that got rid of 2 cards for free, and I got a free monster out of it as well. So I think that's one of the really, really big weaknesses of Altergeist is if you can destroy their traps. They all do it as cost, like protocol and the other one, they like send back to your deck or tribute as cost, which is like insane because you can just ogre it and then they lose like a ton of advantage. Anyways, I do just like normal frog plays here, summon back the Ronin, link it off with the Toad into a copy of IP Masquerena. Then I use the swap frog to, the Toad to summon back or add the Dupe Frog to hand, and I can normal summon it due to swap frog's effect. And then I can here. He says we argue a bit over the normal summon of Dupe Frog, but I actually can normal summon it, even though I did normal summon the swap frog due to his own effect right about here. I can. Oh wait, it's not gonna let me scroll down, is it? Okay, it's not letting me scroll down for some reason, but I actually can use the effect of it. Anyways, I link off the frogs as well as IP Masquerena into a Boral Sword, and I banish just one copy of a Ronin, and then I use Sword's effect to change it to defense mode so it can attack twice. I then summon a Totally Awesome, and I attack for 8,200 damage, which is enough, obviously. Then we go into game number 2. And this is more of a grindy game, if I can speak. So he starts off again with Extravagance. That's okay. He draws 2 cards, Duality, and he's going to add the Heavy Storm Duster here, I believe. And so now that I know he has the Heavy Storm Duster here, I don't want to commit too much to my field, right? So I believe I just go ahead and normal summon the Swap Frog. He crackdowns it. That's okay. It sends my Ronin to the grave still. And I don't want to commit too much to the board because he does have the Heavy Storm Duster, so I don't want him to destroy multiple back row. So I opt to just go ahead and set the Dynamis just because it's a trap card, so I can, chain it to when he starts his turn. Or if he activates trap cards or whatever. So he just Heavy Storm Dusters my 1 back row, which is fine with me. He then activates Personal Spoofing, shuffling back 1 card. I am really dumb here, and I actually activate Impermanence from my hand, thinking it will negate the same column. But it doesn't, because that's not how Impermanence works. Don't play at midnight, boys. Anyways, so I do get a chain and summon back Dynamis just from the grave, which is also a misplay. I should have just left it in the graveyard. He searches for Faker here, and then specials it. Specials the Marionetter, normals the Meluseek, and he links off into a copy of Hexia. Then he uses Mario Effect to summon back the Meluseek, and he attacks here for 800 damage and 500 damage. So I'll take all of those, and the Dynamis just gets banished. So I would be at 55 if I just left the Dino in grave, which I just should have done, but I didn't because I wasn't really thinking. I draw into Inspector Border, which doesn't really do much right now, but it will do something later. So I normal summon Swap Frog. This could get me access to Toad, but it doesn't. And I actually misclicked the Swap Frog here, meaning to keep it on the field. Anyways, I go into battle phase and I attack over the Meluseek, which he chains the Spoofing, which is fine with me. Searching out Conquery. In main phase 2, I just go ahead and Swap Frog, put it back in my hand, set 2 cards, and I pass my turn. He draws a Marionetta for turn, and he normal summons it, and I go ahead and I believe I do Judgment this right here, because right now this is a lot of damage. I believe this is 4,700, which will put me really low, like 2,000 life points. So I am going to go ahead and Solemn Judgment this, getting rid of a monster. And then he's going to go into battle phase and use the Hexia to attack directly for 15, leaving me at 1,850 life points, so I can still activate my Strike, which is very, very good still. It goes back to me, so I go ahead and normal summon the Border here because I do have the Strike set, so if he does activate a monster effect, I can just strike it, and he can only activate 1 monster effect per turn anyways. So I go ahead and attack with Hexia. He opts to not use Conquery's effect for an odd reason. I'm not exactly sure why. But he goes ahead to just take the 500 damage. If he did activate it, I would just strike it, and then at this point we would just be pretty much set to go. Although he could Marionette her and attack directly for game, which I don't know why. That would have been an actually really funny way to end this off, but he actually doesn't do that. He normal summons Inspector Border and attacks into my border, destroying them both. And he passes his turn to me. I draw for turn. I draw into an Impermanence, which I could set into one of these columns to negate it. But I opt to just normal summon a Swap Frog, sending the Ronin Totem, or sorry, not the Ronin Totem. I misclick here specifically too, and I meant to send the Dupe Frog. And I bench the Dupe Frog for Ronin's effect, and I Exceed Summon into Toad, and I go into battle phase and I attack over the Toad for 1,200 damage. Set my Impermanence and I pass it to him. He draws for turn, draws into the Storm Duster. I activate Toad's effect in standby phase. He chains Spoofing to that, which I go ahead and Storm Duster it. Just get rid of it. And then I summon the Dupe Frog from the deck. He sets a back row, which is just the Storm Duster. And it's back to us. He also sets the Meluseek, which he could have normaled it and attacked directly, but I would have just Toad negated it, so it's all fine. Then he goes for a Toad effect, or I go for a Toad effect, and he activates Storm Duster, destroying my back row. I say that's fine. I don't care about the back row at this point. I just have to play with a back row, like a face down monster, which is not a big deal. I summon Swap Frog, sending his Ronin Toad into the grave. And then we can bounce the Swap Frog to hand, normal summon it as well as a Dupe Frog. And then we can link everything off into Masquerena. And I forget to use Toad's effect here. It would have been the correct play, I think, to just send the Toad back to the extra deck, though. So it really doesn't matter in the long run. And I opt to go for double copies of Toad. I don't know why I do this instead of going for Borrelsword Toad. I think I just realized, like, hey, I don't have enough damage on board. I think that was, like, my thought process, because, like, I'm going to deal 5,200. So I was thinking if I just go for double Toad, then I can at least, like, link something off with the Masquerena. So, like, I still have plays. Because I realized I didn't have enough damage for game. So then I go into battle phase. I attack with the Toad over the Meluseek. He activates the effect to search. I use the Toad effect that I attacked with so that I can negate it. And then I can add back Dupe Frog to my hand. And I can attack with Masquerena as well as Toad for 3,000 damage. At this point, I can banish for Ronin Toadin so I can make a Nightmare Unicorn on my turn, as well as having a negate. And at this point, I pretty much win, because he's going to top deck into Meluseek, and he's going to normal summon it, which is okay. And then he's going to go ahead and attack direct, or he's going to attempt to enter battle phase, sorry. And I'm just going to use the Masquerena effect to link off into a Unicorn. And then at that point, I can just, like, discard the Dupe Frog to target the Meluseek, and I win the game, because it's just going to go back into the deck, and this is 44 in damage, and he's only at 3,300, so it's enough to attack for game. Anyways, that's it for this episode of Road to 1,000 Dueling Book Rating. If you guys enjoy this, especially like the Paleo Frog replays, then do drop a like. I will drop another video on Saturday. 3 more matches, and yeah. And then expect also a deck profile on Sunday or Monday, somewhere in there. Anyways, that's going to do it for this video. And yeah, I'll see you guys later.